Hi guys, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in once again.
I
Can you say something?
don't have anything to say yet.
Okay. Yes, but today's episode is going to be really fun.
It's exciting. This is a good one. Um, does Quinn want to go ahead with the breaking news?
Yeah, I'll start this off.
Mhm.
So, breaking news, the word of the day is malapropism, which means when it's funny when someone makes a error when they're pronouncing a word and they say a word that sounds like it but isn't the same. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately when it comes to weary versus wary. Everyone says weary when they mean wary. And it's like you're not tired, you're frightened and alert, you know?
Yes. Maybe they just can't recognize their own emotions and
But
they
that
think
wouldn't happen to us
they're
though.
tired. That would never happen to me.
They
Um,
think they're tired, but they're just scared. I don't think that would happen to anyone.
no, the other way. You think you're scared, but you're just tired.
That could happen.
Yeah. One time, like 2 years ago, I had this really bad, like month-long fit of paranoia. And I really just needed a good night's sleep. And I couldn't get it because I was so paranoid. I was like hearing things. It was really bad.
I'm sorry. You know, like when people stay up, I think past 48 hours, they start like psychosis. They enter psychosis, and some people murder people when that happens. There's been
I
multiple.
happened, not the murder part, but that happened to my dad. Um,
You had a little brother.
um, he's big into adventure racing, so sometimes he doesn't sleep that much.
Oh yeah, that stuff's crazy actually. Her dad goes on like day-long quests. No,
Multiple day long.
days, sorry.
Yeah.
Fortnight.
Well, it's called an expedition if it's
Sorry.
more than 24 hours.
I said quest. I think there could be a
Well,
little
that's
wiggle room there.
there's no quest. He's not like doing it. The
He has
hero's
an
journey.
objective. And he could be the hero if he won.
He does win pretty consistently.
Wow. Like Shrek. Speaking of sci speaking of ogres, ogre orgy, cyborg orgy, military machines.
I want to
Okay,
see where you're going with that.
I don't know. I was hoping you would pick up
Today
at
we're
like any
talking
point and
about
just
today we're talking about the Cyborg Manifesto by Donna Haraway.
girl power. It was written in the 70s, right? Or
Quinn wants
no?
me to define some things. It's in the late 19th century, 20th century. I thought it was in the late 90s.
That stuff yeah, totally. You
Okay.
know, I don't know.
Um, all right. Quinn wants me to define some things because she thinks you guys are stupid and don't already know.
You're
So
welcome.
going into this conversation, I'm going to preface by defining the word dualism as according to the Oxford Dictionary. The division of something conceptually into two opposed or contrasted aspects, or the state of being divided. Um, and the second word I have to define is dichotomy, which is also defined by the Oxford Dictionary as a division or contrast between two things that are or are represented as being opposed or entirely different. So
You could see how those would be relevant because we're talking about multiple things. So,
we're as we move forward with our conversation, we will be talking about dualisms. I think we should begin with, I don't know, which one do you want to start with?
um, let's start with digitization, right?
Okay.
Because that's really relevant right now.
Yeah, the digital, well, all of it's relevant right now. That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, you got me there. Okay.
Um, the digital revolution. All right.
That was like the 90s. Okay.
No, the current digital revolution.
Well, it's still going.
Right. The one she was talking about was like the invention of computers.
It's early
Right.
2000s. No,
Yes. It was, well, it was like the widespread, you know,
Y2K.
epidemic
Hmm.
of the internet, etc. But
Hmm.
it's still relevant because we're still advancing technologically as a society.
Rapidly,
And the current,
exponentially.
right, right. The current digital revolution is AI, right? So, do you want to define cyborg or should I define cyborg?
I can give it a stab.
Okay.
So it is a conceptual myth. She kept calling it a myth, and I was like, but it's real. So what does myth even mean in philosophy? Just that it's like not tangible?
Well, I don't know. Because I think she thinks it's all a myth because it's all made up.
Yeah, but it's made up, but it's still impacting our lives and exists. And she wrote a whole essay about it. So she's just saying that it's like fake,
The
unnecessary.
the cyborg is the um hybrid of machine and organism. So it's pretty much the combination of the organic and the inorganic. Which she goes on to explain the inorganic is pretty much anything that's not that doesn't come out of your mother's womb with you. Um,
So nothing. So just you
so just you.
and your
And
body.
and you are a cyborg if you have been at all influenced by anything that's been man-made, whether that be a C-section or a vaccine or plastic surgery or a prosthetic or other things,
Contacts,
contacts, LASIK surgery, glasses, clothing, piercings,
piercings, yeah.
um,
Mascara. Wait, if
makeup,
you did your
anything.
hair today, does that count?
Hmm.
You're
We
tainted.
all, we all, and it gets more confusing because like we all have
What about,
microplastics.
yeah, ultrasounds too? Aren't we already tainted at birth?
I don't know if that would count or if that would be a count against your mother.
One more strike
No.
against her. Well, one part that she mentioned that cyborgs are the simulation of consciousness, and I guess that's because it ex it exists outside of ourselves, but it's so intertwined in our daily life, the mechanical or technological aspect of it, that what if yeah, sorry, I was thinking about your last point still. Breath spray,
Yeah.
what's in that mug? So, but that's what I'm saying, like, so it is real.
Yeah. It what she's saying conceptually is real. Like she's just kind of making things up based on observations. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I put clothes on every day. Does that make me
A
part,
cyborg.
yeah, part machine? Like, who knows? I don't like
It's kind of like if a tree falls in a forest, is
that's
only real if you recognize it.
that's the
And
conversation. Right.
so that's what we'll be, yeah, that's
That's what we'll be talking about today. Um,
that's what I was saying about she mentioned in part that I read that was not the assigned reading, that $84 billion 40 years ago, that was our like military budget on like weapons and destruction. And so when it gets philosophical, she comments on how we utilize the machinery and the cyber elements because kind of like communism as a that's ridiculous, as like a concept, it could be good, it could, but then you apply humanity and selfishness, greed, power, authoritarianism, and that's when it goes astray.
Human nature. Right.
Right. Hot
Yeah.
or not, low-key not.
She says this one thing that it says, okay, she says pleasure in the confusion of boundaries and for responsibility in their construction. Socialist feminist culture and theory in a postmodernist, non-naturalist mode in the utopian tradition of imagining a world without gender. And this kind of talks about gender, which isn't what we were starting with. We were starting with
We can get into it.
machines.
And
But
so interesting is the use of the word binaries because that originated from computing, right? Computer systems like 0, 1, 1. But then that also applies to gender and if you assign yourself to those binaries. But
so she is talking about a utopian society, right? And that can own, she thinks that it can only be achieved with complete deconstruction of not only gender binary, but all binaries. And um s- she made me think a lot of Brave New World and just the way that like everyone's born, right? And then they're kind of like they're all the same. But then she's saying that if we remove identity from people, it's the only way we can achieve utopia. But society, I think society can't function without identity.
because it's so intrinsic to how we treat ourselves, how we treat others, how we are treated by others. And that's kind of, I don't know, I agree that's unrealistic to detach ourselves from identity. Like I wish it was possible,
Yeah.
but I don't think it is.
Yeah. And even in like Brave New World, that's a fiction novel that it kind of
I don't know
explores
what that
that.
is.
What?
I don't know what that is.
It's a
That
book.
was the assigned reading. I gathered
Aldous
that.
Huxley. I read it in high school.
Okay. I wasn't there.
Oh, we'll work on that. Don't
Oh,
worry about
I'm,
it.
I'm getting beaten after this episode, guys.
Um, you made me lose my train of thought. Okay, so in Brave New World, people are born, and then if I again read in high school, if I remember correctly, they're assigned like a, I think it's like a color, and then you work in your job, and the colors are hierarchies, right?
Like every dystopian 2010s book
It
ever.
was the first one. It was
Okay.
written like the,
Okay. Okay.
okay, heavily Marxist influenced. I
Awesome.
think you should read it. You would like it. I hated it, but in like a good way. Um, I wrote a 25-page paper about it in high school.
Can I just read that? Oh, no.
I don't want to talk about it. I got a B.
That's okay.
All right.
They probably
Anyway,
just don't get it.
so true. She probably just went over her head. Um,
Mm.
and I think that's interesting because it kind of like it recognizes that the world, like if in order for the world to function, people need to assume certain roles. And inherently, and this goes back to what we were talking about a few episodes ago about like groups and a dominant and a submissive. We think of some roles as more important than other roles, or some roles as more valuable than other roles. So I feel like intrinsically in a society, there is going to be binary.
Yeah, because it, yeah, that's just the way it's always been. I also think we find comfort in just having groups or having something to cling on to. And then it goes, but when we try to impress other people and stuff like that, like I'm thinking if you're not a furry, but you have no friends and all your friends are furries, you might be like, okay, I could become a furry.
Hmm.
And I think that's what she was getting at in Manifesto. Just like our need to impress other people and how pathetic we actually are at our core. And yeah, even though we technically live in an individualistic society, I think we still, other people are so influential, even on our own identities. And I wish we could run a study, like put two people on an island and see who they become, like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
What? That's why we got a comment saying, sorry we ponder in real time.
Yeah, facts. We didn't even
But
we didn't even like post about that comment. Hate comment. It wasn't
first,
a hate.
it wasn't. Sorry, we love you, guys. Don't scare them away. Um, I wanted to mention when you mentioned pleasure, though, it reminded me of something I learned in the 90s. Janet Cranack wrote something about our voluntary servitude. So it's like even though we're uncomfortable about the omnipresence of technology and surveillance and stuff like that, we still allow ourselves to fall into it because we do gain something from it. Like there's that little hit of dopamine from watching like a fucking TikTok video or just like whatever we because so we subject ourselves to it because we still get something from it. Not saying it's worth it, but low key we are doing it voluntarily.
Yeah. I agree. We also love the idea of people working for us. So we'll work for as many people as it takes as long as we have someone who works for us because that gives us that like I'm not at the bottom and that's good enough.
Yeah. So is everyone like that? Because I don't feel like I would be like that. I don't want, well, I do want an assistant. You're right. You're right.
Let's pull up the texts from 5 minutes ago.
No.
Um, yes, I also want to mention she at one point says cyborgs are the illegitimate offspring of militarism and patriarchal capitalism, not to mention state socialism, but illegitimate offspring are often exceedingly unfaithful to their origins. Their fathers, after all, are inessential.
Wow. That's actually I remember that part. What makes it illegitimate then? Like, would neoliberalism be considered illegitimate offspring? Or would liberalism in general?
I, that's a good question. I think that depends on your perspective. I could see it both ways, sort of thing. I don't remember where in the reading I pulled that quote from. Um, so I don't really remember the context of what she's talking about.
I like that she used the word offspring because bodily autonomy, when she talks about Foucault,
Who called?
his biopolitics, which pertains to bodily autonomy and like how the whole like animal versus human argument, how we like to separate ourselves or distinguish ourselves from animals.
Yeah,
um, Even though we're not that different, which you brought up last or a couple episodes ago. It's like if we don't want to be considered animals because we think we're so superior, what's it called? Is it like we think we're a superior, I don't, not
we're at the
species?
top of the food chain.
Yeah, like that's not even
So
true.
this is, yeah, she also talks, this is kind of included in her discussion of dualisms and is the human versus the animal. And we are, if we go back in time, animals,
We
right? We
still
are,
are.
yeah, but we don't see ourselves as
Yeah.
animals because of the I don't know, we've just talked about it enough that we're just like, oh yeah, it's universally
So
acknowledged
we
that
talked about it amongst ourselves,
yeah, but
other
it's like
humans.
um so we separate ourselves from that, but that is us separating ourselves from nature and saying that humans aren't the same thing as nature. And she does, I'm going to quote here again. The cyborg does not dream of community on the model of the organic family. The cyborg would not recognize the Garden of Eden. It is not made of mud and cannot dream of returning to dust.
And then
Um,
it talked about how the cyborg like can't feel. I I don't think it said empathy, but it was just like it can't because the cyborg doesn't have feelings. We just apply feelings to it, which that leads me to my little segue about the From Apple to Anomaly by Trevor Pagan or something. It was in 2000, early 2000s, and it's about AI. So he's told the program to find a picture of an apple and just keep producing those images until like and just keep going. And so it built neural pathways because that's how AI learns. It learns from like everything that has ever been put out there. So even like your profile picture could be teaching AI. That's how we're voluntarily in servitude to them, to the AI. Um, but anyway, as it kept going on and on, the Apple started getting turning into everything else about humanity, and then it started getting a little judgmental. And it started because I don't know how the pathways got there, but at the end of the day, the machine it's hard to separate a machine from it like an ideology or like whatever it's taught is how it's going to what it's going to produce. Do you know what I mean? So like
yeah.
even if it's supposed to be not unbiased. And she talks about this in the manifesto, saying that the cyborg is never innocent, without innocence. It is oppositional, it is utopian, but it's guilty. And so that's where I think that ties into that, how, um, I mean, and even nature versus nurture, your environment and the influence on you, just like we're influenced by our environment, so is the AI and the algorithms.
Mhm. And this
Check
goes back,
to
what?
what? Check out that work. It's really cool, guys.
And this goes back to companion.
And when you talked about, you mentioned wanting to have someone below you in companion and or not in companion, but in relation to companion. And this is going to include spoilers, by the way, guys.
If you haven't seen Companion,
Go
go
watch it
watch,
and
pause,
come.
go watch, come back.
We'll pay for it. Did you notice the part where she was like, "Thank you, car"? She said thank you to the car at the
hmm
beginning of the movie.
She was like,
And
"Thank you, Josh's car." Yeah.
uh-huh. And it's later revealed because he didn't want to say thank you. He's like, that's stupid. But she felt a type of kinship. Why? Because she is a robot.
Spoiler. We warned you already, so yeah. And it's also the how she's a robot. She is AI in right. So and it's the whole they programmed a relationship and then he like answered some questions and she thought that she learned these things about him and over time hadn't he had her for like a few years?
And even though he programmed her, he still didn't even like her. He was like, you're weird, you're mopey.
Just
You know, he only wanted her.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um
he-
ugh.
it's disgusting. It's actually, I hated him, but
Yeah, because yeah,
he
anyway.
exists and he's right behind me.
He's somewhere. Jack Quaid. Um
When I find you,
um he was also in the Hunger Games. I like didn't know
I know
that.
it
Oh,
killed Rue. So he's just a villain, and he's also Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan's son.
yeah. Yeah. He's he was doomed from the start.
My mom was like, "He looks so gay," and I was like, "Oh, I think he's straight," and she was like, "Nah." So she
In
has,
what universe? Um,
but the
yeah,
fact that they're so okay with it, even though all of his friends know, and I mean the
Cat.
fact that it was like almost normal. Like there was only a little bit of critique about it, you know?
It was Kat being like, "Oh, I don't really like you. I just don't like the idea." Like, it's like she's like, "It's just the idea of you I don't like," and like that was it. Even though
Mhm.
they were actively planning to have her take the fall
She
for
was
a murder on
uncomfortable.
her part.
She
Yeah.
felt guilty. I think Kat is like the only character that showed e-
Mhm.
empathy. Kat and
Iris.
Iris, yeah, with the
Yeah.
literal robot.
Yeah. Which begs the question, who was more human in the end?
And it was the robot who had to see the horrors that can be produced or experience being, subjugated to, why do I keep saying that word? Just not being in control and thinking that your own brain is you're in control of yourself and then finding out you're not. What is she gonna be like? Oh, humans are chill? No. But she still only killed when she had to. Yeah. Well, once she was autonomous,
Mhm. Well, even when she wasn't, she
she still had to kill.
like
She was
that's
programmed.
what at one point it was revealed that what's his face wasn't in the mafia and
Hmm.
they were like Kat was just like I just wanted to rob him like he was a bad
Hmm.
boyfriend, he deserves it.
Hmm.
Let's not forget that she literally did kill him out of self-defense.
I know, right?
Like
When she killed him, I was like, well,
I was like good for her.
we're gonna we're gonna figure this out. Don't worry,
Like
girl.
maybe it was programmed or like planned, but he wasn't a robot. Like he
He
was a human.
planted a knife on her,
Yeah.
turned her aggression and self-defense up.
Hmm.
And so low key, kind of a commentary. Sorry, my hair looks beautiful right now. Um, on like when you're walking down the street and there's a man behind you, you go into self-defense mode, like fight or flight. Like
Yeah.
it's scary. And that's not programming, that's experience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Also, her intelligence was only 40%.
I was so pissed about that because she sounded kind of smart when she was talking. She would say like bigger words. So I don't, but I like that she was like, you insecure little boy.
It wasn't even 50. I was like, really? Like,
Well, but then 50 is average.
yeah, he wanted her dumber because
Yeah,
he wanted
but
someone below him.
only 50% of people are above average, guys. And just
We're
think
like
about
top like 1 or 2%, maybe 2%.
our IQs are in the 200s. Actually, but then IQ tests, valid or no, any test ever.
Any
Is
test
there
ever.
a way to measure anything accurately
Depends on
without
what kind of test. Like
like
I think like physical tests or like like a multiple choice like academic test.
I saw, do you know that one picture and it's like a goldfish and a bear and a like slug and it's like climb a tree, guys.
Yeah.
So even physical tests are discriminatory against bitches with no legs.
I don't think intelligence is measurable personally.
Me either.
Um,
So that's
except
we settled that.
except me. I'm the smartest.
Well, and we can measure intelligence, like we can
Yeah, I
tell.
can do it, but
I'm talking to you. Yeah.
y'all can't.
Yeah. You have to get to like level 50 to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely Molly's like third time on Earth. Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sorry. Like, just
Anyway, Cyborg as a hybrid of organism and machine erases the boundary that separates humans who think that their origin is divine.
but it also like exists on that boundary. It's cyborg appears where the boundary between human and animals is transgressed.
Is be existing on the boundary and erasing the boundary not the
At,
same thing?
well, when you put it like that, Okay, well, I was just chiming in.
I'm just genuinely curious, like,
Yeah.
if you think that there's a difference, like, can you exist on the boundary without, like, if you are a singular organism,
Mhm.
can you exist on the boundary of two different things without at some point erasing the boundary?
Yeah, and then yeah, that ties back to what you were saying about not having binaries or boundaries. If you don't, uh, like, if you're like, I don't agree with boundaries, non-binary people, are they erasing the boundary? But then it's just for them because
Mhm.
other people and their opinions and their
I
perceptions.
think I think existing on the boundary um just creates a third thing.
You have, yes, I do like your perspective on that, actually. You're just creating more subcategories.
Hmm. I think
Okay.
in order to erase the dualism there, the dichotomy, um, you have to erase the boundary and then like unionize
Yeah,
the
which
two.
isn't that simple. And then that's what you were saying. I don't think we're ever going to be able to do that. And then when you apply like a historical perspective on like even the words we use, everything is everything. That's the rhizomatic theory. That's what it is. It's like erasing the boundaries between everything. It's just but do you want to accept that we have labels and groups and just accept it, or should we complain about it? Genuinely asking. Like, what do we do?
What?
If do you accept that things are grouped and divided and that binaries exist in the reality of the world, or do you want to?
Is utopia something we should strive for? No.
I think that's how we got here, guys. We were striving for utopia.
I don't think it's possible. I don't think the idea that humans have come up with of a utopian society is achievable by humans as they exist right now.
We suck. We're selfish.
Yuck. We're
We
s-
have we're
we
pleasure seeking. He's
we
hedonistic.
we have flaws. We sin. Even though flaws and sin are made up by humans. They were just, and it's like as long as there is a
Human.
negative idea of behavior and a positive idea of behavior, whether it be what I do in my free time or whether it be where I exist in the hierarchy, a utopia cannot exist.
Absolutely agree.
And I don't think that that's something that we can realistically abolish.
We get in our own way. It's yeah.
Yeah.
Even if we could progress technologically, which we totally could, we can industrialize our asses off to the point of the envisioned utopia. You know, when there's like those newspapers or when they asked kids back in like the 40s what 2020 would look like, and they have all these
My
like
gosh.
grand, yeah, these crazy ideas that don't even make sense logistically. And no one mentions everyone has a home, everyone gets food,
Hmm.
no more for-profit prison. No one mentioned that.
That's because we're not good people.
I
No one's
know.
a good person. Like, in our core, we don't give a shit about each other. Not in the
Yeah.
way that we should, and not in the way that would allow us to reach a utopia.
And then we just get beaten down by the system to the point where we give up on giving shit.
Yeah.
This is a bit morbid. Maybe we should
Is evil something you are or something you do?
neither. But if you have like a ideology, okay, everyone needs to make their own morals, I think. Don't base it off like you can gather some morals from wherever you want, whatever works. But so my point was if you're like Christian, then evil is something you do because you can be forgiven, right? But then they don't even, dude, they contradict themselves though. Because what about the devil? He's just evil. They're like, fuck that guy. Evil is something I am.
Literally, is the devil whoa. Is the devil even evil if he was an angel?
And then he fell like by
And
choice.
you know what? The devil, he's Lucifer, kind of valid because what happened? Um,
I don't,
okay.
he
He
was just like,
he
kicked
was
out.
God was like, these are humans. I created them. I want you to bow down to them and protect them with your everything. And Lucifer was like, no, those are flawed, right? I'm an angel. Why would I bow down to those guys? Completely valid. Our whole conversation's about how much we suck. And he's like, they're flawed and stupid. Watch this. Goes down to Earth. Well, gets banished or whatever from heaven. Goes down to Earth. It goes, Eve's one job was to not eat this freaking apple. And
Hedonism.
then
Pleasure seeking.
Lucifer's like,
Yep.
apple?
Like
He's
apple.
like, and then,
The
and then she's
fuck?
like, all right.
Did Adam eat it too, correct?
Yeah.
Just after.
Hmm.
Bro, he would have eaten it first if he got his paws on it. Like it's
And I'm always saying that.
So yeah, praise Lucifer. You too. What
But
about
yeah,
Lilith? What's her vibe?
I don't
Dude,
know about her.
I just know she's like bad. And then the Whore of Babylon, they're just like, dude, just admit you hate women.
You're
The
either,
Whore of Babylon,
yeah, you're
a
either a
Madonna
whore
or a
or a virgin. Be virgin, Mary.
whore. The Virgin Suicides, which calls us back to our last episode, The Theory of the Young Girl, and also ties us to this episode, labels, pre-associations, stereotypes, and also ties us to our future episodes about did we talk about gender enough? Cyber gender?
I have more to say.
Okay. That's
Are we doing a part two for this? Are we gonna
yeah.
hang up and then get on another call
I
for a
don't know
second?
what's your vibe. I think so, yeah. That's what I was getting at.
Okay, guys,
Oh,
two-parter. Gird your loins.
um, yeah.
All right.
It's on you, dude.
Oh, no, wait. It always does this, okay?